My mouth is juicing. Um, I'm gonna spell her YouTube at whatever this right here, right? I know it says Lisa something. Lisa at Lisa Bilyeu and Andrew. I don't know. Bustaumente. And the caption, CIA spy, what he is, and this is her channel. Men don't want you to know this seduction tactic women always fall for.
Seduce us women so that we can spot the manipulation before we get trapped.
If I'm meeting with a female target, and that female target, to be very clear, when in espionage terms, when we talk about a target, we mean an individual who may have access to information that is of a priority for collection for national security purposes. So when you're trying to get a target to build trust in you or to build connection with you, you want to use a system that triggers hormonal releases that pair with emotional leads, and then hormones and emotional leads that create a logical outcome, a logical response. So you're using biology, emotions to lead to what seems like a logical response to them. Okay, so let's just say that I'm meeting with a female. Now, first of all, if I'm meeting with a target, chances are I know more about the target than the target knows about me because I've been researching them. So let's just say I meet with a female who I already know likes Taylor Swift.
Okay.
All right? So even if that's all I know is that they like Taylor Swift, I already have an informational advantage over that person.
Do you know what you're trying to get out of them ahead of time?
Usually you know an idea of what they may have access to. So in this case, let's say that this person is the 23-year-old daughter of a general for North Korea, and that general commands North Korean nuclear missiles. All right, so it's a 23-year-old North Korean female who likes Taylor Swift. It's more common than you might think, right? And that's all we really know. And we know that her dad is in charge of something important, but we don't know if she's actually got access to anything important. The last thing that woman is probably attracted to is a 44-year-old Latin American guy from America. Probably. Good chance I'm not her type. So I'm not going to go in there trying to seduce her first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there just trying to get her to have a positive reaction to me being in her environment. Why? Positive reaction to me in her environment drops 2 hormones. Dopamine, noradrenaline. So that's all I'm looking for first, is just give her a positive experience. Even if that...
This is like hitch information. So, you know what I'm saying? Use this for good purposes. Don't use them for asinine purposes. Please and thank you. Come up when I kick your ass.
Positive experience is simply making her laugh, making her smile, standing in her presence, helping her pick up something she drops. Who cares? Right? Anything that drops those 2 hormones. There's a natural instinct in your brain. Anytime new information is presented, your brain has to ask itself whether that new information threatens its survival or does not threaten its survival. It's a threat-non-threat distinction. When somebody shows up and bumps into you, they threaten your survival. That's how the brain sees it, black and white. When somebody shows up and lets you cut in front of them, they're not threatening your environment, right? So hormones, dopamine, noradrenaline get dropped.
I'm about to fall.
Small amounts, trace amounts, but it's there.
Is that why you then said whether you make them smile or if you drop something and pick them up? Because when you said that, I was like, but those feel like 2 very different emotions, like in my own body.
Emotions come second. Remember how I talked about persuasion is an emotional appeal? That comes second.
Okay.
You're totally right. Different emotions. The hormonal release is the same.
Right. Interesting.
Yes. So just think about all the times that you have been, that your mom has made you laugh, that your friends have made you laugh, that Tom has made you laugh. The dopamine is the same. The noradrenaline is the same. The feeling is the same. The emotion is different, right? Mom making you laugh doesn't really turn you on. Tom making you laugh might turn you on, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
So that's what ends up happening. So the first step that we're trained isn't to target seduction, it's just to target a positive hormonal release, because that builds
Oh, niggas
momentum
ain't shit, I
towards
swear to
if
God.
seduction is the right appeal. And seduction isn't always the right appeal.
Do you, in the moment, just assess her and then go, okay, I'm going to make her laugh? Or, okay, she looks a bit stoic, she's got a bit of a bad mood face, so I'm going to bump into and pick something up. Like, how do you decide what tactic to use?
So it's funny, because remember how I talked about this North Korean female
Yeah, that's the person I'm talking about, yeah.
She's a Taylor Swift fan. She's a Swiftie, right? If I knew that I was going to try and find this person, bump into this person, I could wear a Taylor Swift shirt, because when she sees a guy in a Taylor Swift shirt, guess what her non-threat is going to be? She's going to say, not a threat. Obviously, he's a Swift fan. I can anticipate the hormonal drop that's going to happen immediately just seeing me in a Taylor Swift shirt. I can also have my phone speaker on and be listening to a Taylor Swift song. So we're jamming out to Red as I walk into line behind her. I already know as soon as she hears a song, what's she going to be like? She's going to be like, oh, I like that song. Drop, hormonal drop, right? That is so critical, because what happens to most men who are actually trying to make initial contact with a woman.
Excuse me? You're reading wrong. Put these on.
They don't do anything that makes that woman feel safe. They don't do anything that makes her happy. Men who are actually trying to make initial contact with a woman, they skip the hormone. They don't do anything that makes that woman feel safe. They don't do anything that makes her happy. They don't do anything that makes her interested. So a man approaching a woman cold, hi, my name's Andy. Like, threat, non-threat doesn't know what to do with that, so it's going to literally jump to a conclusion and say, you're bigger than me, you've got crazy hair, you're not my type, so threat. And that's why so many men get frustrated that they're trying to approach a woman, the woman is not responsive or receptive to the approach. Her noradrenaline is not being triggered. Her dopamine is not being triggered. Her threat response is being spiked. What do you expect? Right? When you approach a woman who you just happen to be her type, noradrenaline is dropped, dopamine is dropped. Even if the threat response is still spiked, those two hormones are what make her curious. And you're like, you're kind of my type. I get why you're talking to me, but I'm not comfortable with you. Completely different than when somebody who really turns you off steps up to you and you're like, I just want to be away from you.
Oh, interesting. So the confusion between the visuals and how they're making you feel.
Correct. When it's very clear, when you don't like the visual and you don't like the feeling, easy to stay away from.
Oh, it's so true.
When you do like the visual, you don't like the feeling, you're kind of like, I don't know what to do with this right now.
Why does the visual sometimes override the feeling? Because I think people do on dates.
For sure. The visual doesn't override the feeling. What happens is the visual gives them a chance to reset the feeling. Have you heard there's a rule of thumb that says your first impression is the most important impression?
Yeah.
That's not the truth. Cognitively speaking, what we say at CIA is your last impression is the impression that lasts.
Oh.
Because what really matters is what people think when they leave you, not when they meet you. When they meet you, you always have a second chance, and a third chance, and a fourth chance. Literally, in a conversation, I might have 90 seconds of conversation with you. Every one of those 90 seconds is a new impression. So does the first 5 seconds matter as much as the last 5 seconds? Not really. If I leave you with a smile on your face, you're going to forget how awkward I was when I first said hello.
That's so funny. I went to film school. It's the same thing in film school. They teach you, they're like, no matter what, don't mess up the ending. It's like, no matter how good the TV show is, no matter how good the movie is, if you mess up the ending, you're done for. Yep. Or the opposite. If you screw up the whole movie, but the last part, the ending's so amazing, people actually forgive you for screwing up the movie. Fascinating.
There's a reason for that, right? There's a reason that's what Hollywood teaches. So let's go back to, we're in line at a coffee shop behind our North Korean target. I'm wearing a Taylor Swift shirt. I walk into her presence. I turn on Red on my phone on speaker. What is she going to do? Naturally, what would anybody do when they hear music coming out of a phone? They look around to see who's the asshole with the music on the phone.
That's true.
Wait, I think we watched this video already. I just had deja vu, yo.
looks around, she looks at me, she sees my shirt. Chances are she's going to react. Smile, laugh, do something. Regardless, I don't care what her reaction is. I'm just looking for the moment when she looks at me. Because now when she looks at me, I can use that as an introduction. I can use that as what we call a window to start a conversation. So she looks at my shirt, even just for a half a second, right? Oh, she's a Taylor Swift fan because that's what my profiler told me. In this case, my wife is a targeter, so she would have told me that. So she looks at my shirt and she looks away right away. And then I go up to her and I'm like, you're a Taylor Swift fan too, huh? Are you a Swiftie in hiding? More noradrenaline, more dopamine. And she's probably going to turn around and be like, I am. Like, did you see her in concert? Have you done this? Have you done that? Again, we don't have to be shooting for seduction. We're shooting for a hormonal release. We've gotten that going. Now all I need to do is build the emotional appeal, right? The emotional appeal is the persuasion, right? Persuasion is an emotional process. Influence is a logical process.
Ooh.
What that means is when you sit with your dentist and your dentist has good bedside manner and they make you feel safe and they make you feel comfortable, those are emotions. Then when you leave your dentist and you go back home and your dentist isn't there with you anymore, but you refer someone to your dentist, that's influence. You need to have persuasion before you have influence, meaning you have to have emotion before you have logic. So a lot of times people get the two terms confused. They think influence is something that's emotional. They think persuasion is something that's rational. It's not. Persuasion is emotional. Influence is rational. So the first thing I do is build an emotional, persuasive appeal to our Swiftie North Korean target. Right? Oh yeah. I'm actually still new to being a fan, but my daughter is a massive fan, right? Why am I talking about my daughter? Because I'm obviously 44 years old. I'm much older than she is, right? I got to call attention to it right away, or else she's going to feel like some old man might be hitting her.
Oh, that's so true.
So I just have to talk. I have to state my backstory in a way to keep the threat indicator from turning on. I have to keep myself in the non-threat space if I ever plan to build an emotional appeal with this person.
If this episode or any other Women of Impact episode is bringing you value, please smash that subscribe button down below, because you have no idea how much that becomes a calling card to all women out there that this is the place, this is the community to be a part of, because we've got each other's backs. So smash that subscribe button. Thanks for listening. Now back to the episode. And as a woman, when you hear a guy has a daughter and he brings her up, oh my God, like I'm just putty in their hands. Like I'm just like, tell me more about your daughter. So that almost maybe falsely gives you credibility to be trustworthy.
Correct, because I'm a parent, I'm a care provider. I didn't say anything about being married, right? I didn't say anything about being divorced either, right? So she doesn't know I have a kid, which explains why I'm older. So it gives me a little bit of wiggle room so that she doesn't just think I'm a creepy old man right away.
And actually, because you've got the daughter, it goes, oh, that's why you got the t-shirt. Whereas if you didn't have a daughter and you're like, I just love Taylor Swift, I would be a little skeptical of you in your 40s loving Taylor Swift as a single man.
Well, not only that, I don't have the creds to talk about Taylor Swift. Right? Like, so if I go in there and she starts talking about, oh, the last 4 concerts were this and that, and what do you think about this song and the lyrics in this song, I'm going to be totally lost. It's going to be very quick that I'm faking it. Whereas when I say, oh, I have a t-shirt on because I just threw it on, I bought it for my daughter when she and I both were like listening to the Red album, right? If I do something like that, oh yeah, I just happened to throw this on today. It still got me what I needed. It got me the initial adrenaline drop, or the noradrenaline drop. It got me the initial dopamine. It got me to the place where I can now build a persuasive appeal.
But to your point, when you experience something, you said that your mind goes into 2 places, right? Is this safe or is this not safe? If I met a 40-year-old guy that didn't have a daughter and was just a Taylor Swift fan, my brain immediately would go like, something's not right here. Whereas the fact that you even just dropped the daughter thing immediately goes, oh yeah, that makes sense, and then puts it in the making sense bucket.
And she herself is what?
A Taylor Swift.
A daughter.
Oh, a daughter. Oh.
So we're building more and more common connection. When we have common connection, we start having momentum that's built hormonally and momentum that's built emotionally, right? So now I have it. Now I'm talking to her. I went from not knowing her at all to now talking to her, and she feels good about us talking to each other. I can anticipate that she feels good because I already know the noradrenaline and the dopamine are on my side. Now it's my job. Now the skills actually have to kick in, because now what I have to do is keep momentum on my side to build a persuasive appeal, persuasive being emotional. So I have to build an emotional appeal with this person. And depending on the direction that it goes, that's what will answer the question whether seduction is the direction or something else. I will say this, we are trained not to pursue seduction first.
The online energy medicine training is a profound online program through which you can learn shamanism and energy medicine and become a certified practitioner from the comfort of your home or anywhere in the world. This 6-month-long training takes you through the 4 directions of the medicine wheel, an ancient path of transformation and evolution.
Say this, we are trained not to pursue seduction first. Because sex is tricky. Sex is a very tricky thing culturally, gender-wise, age-wise, background-wise. You never know when you're dealing with somebody who loves sex versus somebody who feels guilty about sex because of their religion, or somebody who has had negative experiences with sex, or somebody who uses sex as a tool to get advantages. You never know what you're dealing with. So we don't pursue seduction first. All we pursue first is a positive relationship. The last impression is the impression that lasts, right? When you're targeting somebody, you always have the opportunity to target them again and again and again. Find them again. Come back to this coffee shop. Go back to their gym at the same time that they work out. There's this, I'm married. I love my wife. She's beautiful. She's everything I want her to be. There's this very cute, middle-aged, super buff female that works out every day, Monday through Friday at about 5 o'clock at night, right? I see her all the time. She's very friendly. She's seen me online. She always says hello to me, right? She's very attractive. She's a cool, fit lady. But she's at the gym at 5 o'clock. That tells me a lot about her.
Oh, what does that tell you about her?
She's at the gym at 5 o'clock. Who's watching the kids, right? If she's got a husband, her husband's at home watching the kids. She doesn't wear a wedding ring. So she could be part of like a new partnership, or a partnership that doesn't feel the need to wear a wedding ring, or she may not wear a wedding ring just because she's at the gym. Either way, she's at the gym at 5 o'clock. So she's not there at 2 o'clock. She's not there at 10 a.m. So she's probably working during the day, right? She's also going to the gym every day. So there's something about the gym that is therapeutic to her, whether it's her fitness or whether it's anxiety relief or stress relief or whatever else. And when she goes, she doesn't work out lightly. She works out hardcore. She doesn't dress cute in like matching stuff. She usually wears like the same 2 or 3 outfits. So she's a very practical lady, right? So now I have all of this data about her just based on the fact that she's at the gym at 5 o'clock. Switch the roles. She only sees me at the gym at 5 o'clock sometimes. Some days I work out at 9, some days I work out at 6, some days I work out at 2, because my schedule is very unpredictable. I now know her schedule is very
Predictable.
Is that because of the lifestyle she lives, or is that by choice? I don't know yet. But all this assessment data is stuff you can pick up without even having a conversation, right? So with our target, you have to realize you can pick up a ton of information without even having a conversation, or without having a substantive conversation. Just having a couple of exchange lines about, are you a Swiftie? My daughter's a Swiftie. I got this shirt when we went to the Red Tour. It was a great time. What are you going to get today for your coffee?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're learning all sorts of information, because if they keep talking to you, first of all, when somebody continues talking to you, it's a strong sign of one of 2 things. Either they enjoy talking to you, or they are controllable.
Well, I didn't see that one coming.
If you've ever been in a conversation you didn't want to be in, but you didn't know how to get out of, but you kept being in the conversation, you have to accept that there's an element of your personality that is controllable. You are essentially being bullied.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
Yep. There's something about you want to protect their feelings. You want to protect your reputation. You feel awkward. You might be living in your own head where you're like, I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how to get out of this. But you're still stuck in it, right? The other person's in control. We have a saying at CIA, if you're not the one in control,
You're being
you're the one
controlled.
being controlled.
Yeah.
You're the one being controlled, right? Out of control is kind of a figment of our imagination. You can be out of control of yourself because somebody else is in control of what you're doing. All elements that play into the process of building towards some kind of seduction. So just to kind of fast forward this experience, because you want to know how do we get to seduction? If I start to see positive emotional appeal with this target, and I start to see what look like indicators of physical attraction, because here's what's fascinating. Physical attraction isn't always based on physical looks. physical attraction when you are attracted to the person's physique immediately is easy. But there are plenty of women and men who end up getting very physical with people they never thought they'd be attracted to. There are plenty of girls who like fit white footballers who are married to pot-bellied Mexicans right now. Plenty. And there are plenty of men who were like, I'm never going to marry a woman who looks like my mother, but then marries a woman that looks just like his mother. It happens, right? Because true attraction, and what we understand at CIA is true attraction is a hormonal response. It is not a sensory response, how you see, what you smell, et cetera, et cetera. That's why, like, people marry guys with bad breath. Guys marry girls with stinky feet. Like, it's not a sensory decision. It's a hormonal decision complemented by emotions and very, very complicated from there. So we've got our Taylor Swift fan. We've made her smile. We continue to have a conversation. And to see signs of physical attraction, she stands close to me on her own. I give her space to stand far away, but she stands in close, right? That's a sign of possible physical attraction. If I start to see her linger, like her eyes will linger on my eyes, or if I see her mirroring my behavior, right? I lean in my left hip, she leans in her left hip. These are all signs of physical attraction. At that point, we would make the, do we want to take this down a road of more seductive intent, seductive emotional persuasion, or do we keep this in a safe, non-seductive place? Because the truth is, if you start seductive, you've only got one way to go. If you start not seductive, you can always go back to seduction. There's essentially three types of energies that we carry with us at all times. These energies are something that's documented in neuroscience, documented in chemical hormonal sciences, recognized in psychology. But there's three different types of people. At CIA, we classify those three types as collective energy people, connected energy people, or creative energy people. Three types of people, three C's: collective, connected, or creative. At any given time, for periods of time, meaning anywhere from 3 days to 3 months, we are in one primary category from those three. Have you ever, I know you've got art all over your house, have you ever found yourself in a deep creative rut where like you just want to create?
Yes.
And the more you create, the more energy it gives you.
Yes.
You could just keep creating. But it's really a pain in the ass to be a partner and to be a spouse and to be a boss and to be all this other stuff, right? You're like, I just can't, the world can just leave me alone right now. But then there's other times when you're in the zone, helping your partner, helping your clients, helping your customers, helping your staff, and you'll make time to create some other time. That is you switching between these three zones, right? When you're part of a team, that is your collective energy. When you're an artist, that is your creative energy. When you're a spouse, that is your connected energy. And we bounce between all three of these in different phases. You have to be sensitive to the phase that your target is in. So when you start to see indicators that they're in a connected phase, that's when you might choose seduction first and foremost, because what they are the most vulnerable for in that moment is someone to connect with. And we all underestimate the incredible need that humans have to connect. It goes back to our very survival instinct. Human beings are not lone predators. We are tribal pack animals, and we know that our survival opportunities increase when we are connected to another human being. Even better if that human being has strengths where we are weak, has skills where we do not, right? So when you know that you're with a connected energy person and you can see indicators from them that they are physically attracted to you, that's the perfect time for you to take it down a more seductive route. Interestingly enough, that is honestly how a solid 50% of affairs start.
Really?
One partner is in a connected energy phase that the other partner is not in. So then this connected energy person feels isolated. And if it lasts for weeks or months or something else, all of a sudden this connected energy person happens to come across some other connected energy person in the workplace, at a concert, in social circles, whatever else. And their connected energy mixes with the opportunity of physical attraction, and then bad decisions are made.
Is that where the phrase "I was drawn to them" comes from?
And I'm attracted to you. I'm drawn to you. It feels meant to be.
Yeah.
I think there's a Jewish word, beshert. I think that's it, and it means like star-crossed or meant to be. That's where it's all emotional. Remember, hormones come first. Emotional appeals come second. Then it gets to be influence. Then it gets to be logical, and that's why we see adulterers logically defend their adultery. I'm allowed to be happy. You can't prevent me from being happy. You take away my happiness. You never listened to me. You never, trusted me or whatever else. Like, you see adulterers defend their adultery because what's happening is they've already had the hormonal drop. They've already had the emotional connection. Now what they're doing is they're using to defend their emotional decisions, which you can't do. You can't logically defend an emotional decision.
Coming up.
The main telltale sign, whether you're in a collective energy state, a creative energy state, or a connected energy state, what you're looking for is...
When you start at BAM as an intern, there are a lot of things that you learn as you go. BAM is somewhere...
I want to talk directly to the badass content creators watching right freaking now. When you pour time and love and energy into the content you're creating, just like I do, you know that creating short clips for social is actually important to help people come and watch your message and your show. But it also is actually freaking tedious and time consuming. So that's why I think you're gonna freaking love Opus Clips. Now, Opus Clips makes it so damn simple to convert your long form videos into short, social media ready clips automatically using AI. We use Opus Clips right here on Women of Impact and Impact Theory, and every single person absolutely loves how it works so damn well to be able to clip emotional, powerful moments from these episodes that you watch to then share on social. So trust me, your homie, just go and give Clip Anything by Opus Clip a try for yourself. And guys, that was absolutely... How do you know someone's in a connected state for you to then make the decision, either with this, as a CIA spy, but also just like your partner or knowing yourself to know right now I'm not in a connected state? Because this is great relationship advice right here.
Yeah, so in each of those three phases, the main telltale sign, whether you're in a collective energy state, a creative energy state, or a connected energy state, what you're looking for is whether or not certain actions generate more energy. In a creative energy state, the more creative you are, the more energy you have. Mm-hmm. So when you watch somebody writing, when you watch somebody painting, when you watch somebody drawing, if you start to see them yawning, if you start to see them show signs of tiredness, that creative energy is draining. Creative is the easiest one. Somebody who's writing, somebody who's drawing, somebody who's cooking, somebody who's painting, somebody who's playing music, when they get into that groove and they just keep going, they're in a creative phase. Mm-hmm. Don't mess with them, right? Collective energy. Collective energy means that you are part of a collective, higher purpose. You have a calling. You volunteer. You're part of a church. You're part of a team. You're working late for your company, whatever it might be, right? When you're up late being CEO and you've got tons of energy to do it, and before you know it, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you're like, well, shit, I should have gone to bed 4 hours ago. You're in a collective energy phase. And you know that you're serving the community, the collective, and that's bringing you more and more energy. They belong to a higher cause, and they serve and they serve and they serve soldiers and doctors and nurses, and they just serve. When you see somebody in a collective phase, you see that they are gaining energy from contributing to a larger cause, right? So when you see them dedicating their time to others, that's a strong sign that they're in a collective phase. Connected is what you were originally talking about, right? A connected phase person is getting their energy from moments of intimate connection. So if we're talking to our North Korean female target and she is legitimately getting energized from our time together, connected energy person, right? Connected energy phase. You know that it's happening. And you felt it. I'm sure that you felt great chemistry with somebody in the past.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. Either you're both in the same phase naturally, or they're in the phase and you're really absorbing their extra energy, and that's lifting you up too. But when you're trained, you can see it in the other person, you can replicate it, you can feed off of it, you can match it, you can do all sorts of things to manipulate it, but you understand the indicators. And the indicators are when you're talking to somebody and they're energizing, connected energy phase.
Connected energy phase. Oh my God, nigga, what? They're explaining this from the CIA perspective and how they do energy read. So, to say that this doesn't exist, to say that it's the devil, to say that, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, oh, you shouldn't be that. No, it's how you do it. They've been doing these experiments on us for a very long time, at least 100 plus years. And yeah, I would say at least almost 1,000 years.
How how many dates have gone wrong because the guy is talking to the girl. She is not in a connected energy phase. She is clearly in a collective phase or a creative phase, but he's not picking up on it. So he just keeps talking. He keeps telling stories. He keeps laughing. He keeps thinking the date's going great. And she is sitting there like, when is this going to end? I've got so much work to do. The people at work are counting on me. All I can think about is what's going to happen next in my book, right? I can't wait to get home and binge watch my show in my pajamas and eat my ice cream, right? That's not them being pathetic. That's them being in a collective or a creative phase of energy.
Is that where a lot of mismatch comes from then, where you like leaving, like one of the couples is like, oh my God, I had such an amazing time. The other person's like, oh my God, I'm never going to date again.
Exactly. That's what's happening there. But the other thing that's interesting, that's really, really important, the phases change. The phases shift all the time. I was just talking to somebody yesterday. He's married now. When he first met his wife, 8 months before they got married, she was really into him. They met at a bar. He was helping her with like her sick friend or something like that. She was really interested. They had like 2 good dates. And then on the 3rd date, she like ghosted him. 8 months go by and he sees her at another party. And he goes up to her and he's like, just being nice about it. He's like, how are you? Haven't seen you in a while, right? What's going on? That 8 months later, she's in a completely different phase. Right? So she was in a very focused work phase. So then that turned into like this cordial period of friendship. He was cordial to her. She was cordial to him, 4 or 5 months. And then she switched phases again. And when she switched phases again, she switched to a connected phase again. And then you can see that's how some relationships take 2 years, 3 years, 7 years to really match up, because both people are going through different phases. And it's not until you're both in the same phase that you can really build strong intimacy in that phase. And where a lot of marriages struggle is because just because you put a ring on each other's fingers doesn't mean you're going to be in the same phase. There's going to be switches and changes in phases.
Mm-hmm. So when that happens, is that the time that you then, either you or another CIA agent may go, okay, now they're primed to be seduced?
So this is where it gets really interesting. Seduction, like I told you, seduction doesn't have to mean sex. Oftentimes, the strongest form of seduction for intelligence gathering purposes is to always refrain from letting the sex happen. Is to keep people believing that there's a relationship, to keep people believing that there's trust and intimacy without ever actually getting to the physical point of sex, which is why a lot of times undercover officers will claim to be married. They will claim to be engaged. They will claim to be in long-term relationships, because they always have the excuse to not let it get to that point.
What difference does it make when a client is
not let it get to that point? Let me use some real world examples, right? Because what we're talking about, when we talk about seduction for intelligence purposes, the commercial term is called sexpionage. The professional term is called sexual exploitation operations.
Yeah, not I prefer sexpionage.
But it's government speak, so they have to have it, right? The people who really perfected sexual exploitation operations were the Russians, specifically the KGB. Starting in about 1960, all the way through the 90s, they really perfected this process. And as they refined that process, they essentially created 3 categories of sexual exploitation operation. There were Raven operations, Swallow operations, and Sparrow operations.
Okay.
Raven operations were when the male seduced the target. Could be a male target, could be a female target. Either way, it was a raven, right? A male doing the seduction. Swallows were when females did the seduction, right? So females doing the seduction was called a swallow. Poor choice of words, I get it. There's all sorts of jokes there, but it's the Russians.
Oh yeah, I was holding back on the jokes.
And then there were Sparrow operations. Now, for those of you, those people out there who are big into birds, the difference between a swallow and a sparrow is the level of aggression and the primary food source. Sparrows are hunters. So a sparrow operation was generally used when seduction was preceded assassination or violence. So violence, killing someone, kidnapping someone, poisoning someone, etc. Again, we're talking KGB, so everything was available. So in these 3 different types of sexual exploitation operations, what the Russians discovered is that the best thing to do is to essentially build a close personal relationship that's based on trust and intimacy, and then either avoid regular sex or avoid sex altogether. Never make it a primary relationship. Having a spy marry a target is silly. Having a spy be the courtesan, having a spy be the side hustle, having a spy be the girlfriend or developing boyfriend, way more useful than having them actually end up being married. Because once they're married, there's all sorts of obligations that make it very difficult to maintain clandestine communications and clandestine operations.
Yeah, I can imagine the swallow, so the woman being...
Clandestinely, you're gonna be buried in your popularity. La, la, la. You popular. I'm gonna make you popular. Lar.
the agent, they probably would carry more power being the girlfriend of a guy that was married.
Correct.
Right, because now there's the secret behind it.
Right, and to the target, whenever there's secrets, this is what's so powerful about secrets. We love it when somebody else keeps our secret. That discretion shows extra value, extra credibility, extra like trust, because now I can trust you to keep my secret, right? And there's power in that. There's power. There's intimacy. There's intentionality there. Anybody who's ever had an affair or been part of an affair, part of what drives that affair is that shared discretion, right? Anybody who's had a friend with benefits knows what it's like to value that shared discretion. It's like, hey, we're friends to everybody else out there. We're friends, but we know we're hooking up. But everybody else thinks we're just friends. We are even that much more intimate because we know the truth and we're keeping it discreet from everybody else. That's part of why Friends with Benefits is such a popular.
I started laughing. Oh, my ears started ringing. Jesus, wait, hold on. And it's not the good one. Because I was thinking about spiritual hookups. Like, what the fuck? If it happened to you, then you won't kind of know what I'm talking about. But if you heard about it, you know what I'm talking about. Where it happens spiritually, not physically. I'm not just talking about it in the dream state either. Spiritually and the physical.
Thing.
So what out of those scenarios, thank you for breaking down the KGB thing. I'd like to go a little deeper actually, because I find this stuff fascinating. And the reason why I find it fascinating, just to be very clear, is as a woman, I'm always worried that if, obviously I'm married now, but a lot of women do worry about getting manipulated without their permission, getting seduced without realizing it. Like there is this element of, I'm so worried someone's going to take advantage of me. Period. So I'm always trying to think through what are the things as women we're trying to protect ourselves from, and the understanding of seduction and how it works, I feel like is something that if I can understand it, now I can look out for it. And I think other women can as well. So with the KGB and taking those like 3 then scenarios, one question randomly is there one that's more effective than the other?
It's interesting. So I wouldn't say there's one that's more effective than the other because it's largely based on the target itself.
Right.
In Western culture, swallow operations are the most common because Western men are sexually repressed compared to men of the rest of the world. In Europe, there's topless commercials and topless beaches. In Latin America, like prostitution and human trafficking is common. In India and Southeast Asia, like you can buy 3 spouses. Like it's only in Canada, Australia, the United States, the UK, where we really have this kind of repressed sexuality, where we still feel ashamed of our turn-ons, right? So because of that, swallow operations against the West are the most common. There are some really recent ones even that people forget happened. One example is Maria Butina. Maria Butina is a traditional Russian influence operation. She was arrested in 2019. That's 5 years ago, right? After having sexual relationships, intimate relationships with multiple state senators, national congressional representatives. I mean, being heavily engaged in conservative politics with some of the biggest influential names in conservative politics. So Maria Butina, arrested in 2019 and charged with being an unregistered foreign agent of Russia.
Whoa.
For decades, this woman ran swallow operations, using sexual exploitation operations, following the same three processes, the same three steps that I just told you, right? Hormone release first, persuasive emotional appeals second, that lead to long-term influence, like long-term logical influence. That's the three steps. So how do you protect yourself? That was your original question. How do women protect themselves? Understand that it takes three steps. Hormonal release has to come first. Emotional appeals have to come second. That's your persuasion. And then some sort of logical justification for why you're together comes third, right? You cannot be influenced outright. You have to have hormonal releases and emotional appeals that come first. So for a female, when you feel good talking to somebody, like it's almost impossible to tell that that's a bad thing.
I know. It's like now I almost like don't want to smile, and you get all paranoid.
But the thing to keep an eye out for is the second step. The second step is really the most important step, and that's the persuasive step. When you see people appealing to your emotions, right? When you see people intentionally appealing to your emotions, we've had this conversation and that people are watching this conversation, they're going to understand what it looks like when someone says the right things, does the right things, right? To persuade emotionally someone to come to their side. They talk about the same cause that you value. They talk about the same things that you value.
Motherfucker. Oh, when you see this, fuck you. Fuck you. The fucking asshole. This motherfucker's an asshole. Oh my God.
I made a joke earlier about your earrings and your watch because I know that you value your jewelry, right? It was a joke, but at the same time, it was a persuasive appeal to show you that I pay attention to you, that I care about you, that I see you, right? That's part of what happens when someone is actively trying to persuade another person. And when a con man or a serial abuser or, you know, an unhealthy narcissist, they have learned through experience how to trigger hormonal release and how to feed on persuasive emotional appeals to get their target to a place where they logically listen.
Energy siphoning. Karma's gonna kick your ass. 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 Gonna kick your ass.
To the person, follow their rules, give them their bank accounts, give them their credit cards, whatever else it might be.
What then characteristics are the easiest targets to go after?
You're looking for people who are in a connected phase of their life, right? That's the fastest and first one to go after. Those people who are in connected phases are usually also people who are highly ambitious and highly successful. And it is their ambition and their success that has ostracized them from everything else. Few friends, few family, people, like they've abandoned most of their relationships because they're so driven on what they have. They are driven, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're in a collective energy phase. They're just driven people, and they could be very driven and feel very lonely most of the time. Your serial abusers and narcissists really know how to find this person, right? Because they know what to look for. They know to look for a middle-aged woman who's a little bit overweight, but who wears very nice clothes. They know to look for, you know, somebody who...
Break that down for me, actually, quickly, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So generally speaking, you can't, probability-wise, young women aren't very wealthy because it takes time, it takes energy, it takes experience, it takes education and knowledge to build the network, to build the business, to really start becoming wealthy, to build the credibility, to become powerful at work, right? So when you're young, you have time, but you don't have money. With that time, you go to the gym. With that time, you have a social life. With that time, you put nice makeup and nice hair and fashion. You put all that together when you're young. Well, then you cross that 34, 35-year-old age zone. Now you're making good money and you have no time, especially when you're a successful female. Now the thing you wish you could buy is an extra 2 hours or 3 hours. You don't put as much time into your makeup. You don't put as much time into your hair. You don't pay as much attention to your clothes, but you still buy fine clothes. You're definitely not going to the gym anymore. So you're gaining extra weight. So then when you buy nice clothes, you're buying designer clothes that complement your weight, right? Anybody who's seen like a 38-year-old female attorney essentially knows what this looks like. They're wearing, beautiful, carrying a Coach bag, wearing designer clothes, but they're frumpy bodies, right? They've done something with their hair. Maybe they had it blown out by a professional blowout person, but it's definitely not them doing their own hair. And they've got, makeup on, but their makeup is the same makeup they've worn since, for the last 15 years.
Is the season for holiday gifting. Get an extra 30.
Bro, he's so disrespectful. His wife must be skinny. They some skinny boppers. It's okay. I'm gonna be there one day.
Because they know that woman probably makes $350,000 a year. She probably works 60-hour work weeks. She's probably been through a divorce already. If she has kids, her kids are older, old enough that they might be with dad, or old enough that they might be latchkey kids. So I can ask her out for a date. During happy hour, she can have a couple of drinks and she's not going to want to rush home. Like, they know what to look for because they can assess where she is in her life, how much money she makes, what her job might be, and they can prey upon that, understanding that she may also be in a connected energy phase.
So if they're ambitious, is it the fact that because they're ambitious, they don't have friends and time, and so they're going to be more susceptible to companionship? Like, what is that? Because I would have thought it'd be the opposite. It's like, oh, she's so busy. The last thing she's going to want to do is pay attention to me when she's got a business to run.
And what's funny is that is false logic. What you're thinking is actually logical, but it's based on flawed reference points, right? And what's funny is anybody listening right now who is a highly ambitious female knows all they want sometimes. If they're in a connected energy phase, all they want is for somebody to see them, validate them, ask them out, and be patient with their incredibly demanding work schedule. Like, they only get one day off a week. They would love to be taken out and treated like the center of attention and not have to make a decision at all that day and be treated like a woman, be treated like a lady, or be treated like a man, or whatever else who's listening, right? That's what they really want. But what we all tell ourselves outside of that world is, oh, they're just too busy. They're not just too busy. They are very busy because they are driven and they are ambitious. That doesn't mean that they're not also falling into the 3 different phases of energy. And when they're in a connected energy phase, it means that connection will give them more energy. So put yourself, I guarantee you that this has happened to you because you are a hardworking, driven, ambitious woman. You have been in a groove where you have been working your ass off, and it's draining, and you're tired, and all you really want is just to connect. Maybe it's with Tom, but he's gone. Maybe it's with a girlfriend. Maybe it's with, like, who knows what. But you want someone to just be a human being with you and just connect in this moment with you. That's a connected energy phase. And when you have that chance to sit with them and have wine or share a charcuterie board or even just put on pajamas and watch a movie together, it's great. It's energizing, and you feel connected, and you don't fall asleep during the movie, and it's all great. Even though you're still working your ass off, your phase is a connected phase. So you're energized by being with another human being. Sometimes when you're in a collective energy phase, that's when you're energized by the work itself. And you could care less about popcorn. But sometimes you're in a connected phase even though you're ambitious.
That's interesting. And I was thinking, actually, so I've been somewhat ambitious, I would say, since 2010, since we started Quest Nutrition. And for the first 10 years, I was like, I haven't got time for anything. Like, I'm all work all the time. And I'm 45 now. And I'm like, I want to connect with people. I want experiences. So even thinking about the stage of that person's life, like you said, obviously there's the wealth, there's the career, but then there's that hormonal thing. As I've noticed, at least in my circle of girls, that us women who are getting into perimenopause and menopause are actually looking to connect a lot more than we were when we were in our 30s.
And that doesn't mean that you spend years of time in one of the 3 energy phases.
Right.
What it means is that of the 12, you're spending more cycles in the connected cycle. You still have collective energy. You still have creative energy. You don't stop drawing. You don't stop leading. You just find yourself with more numbers of hours, numbers of days in that connected energy phase. So even that is predictable over the course of people's lifetimes, right? When we're very young, we spend a lot of time in our creative phase. because we don't need a larger purpose. We are the purpose. Anybody who's been around like a 14-year-old knows the whole world revolves around them. So they spend most of their time creatively engaged. Sometimes they want connection with mom or with dad or with close friends or with a boyfriend. Sometimes they want collective feelings with their church, with their family, with their sports team, but they spend the majority of their time in a creative energy phase. As you become a young professional and go through college, it switches to collective. The vast majority of our time from like 18 to 30 is collective energy time. We want to belong to something. We want to belong to a purpose. We want to have a group. We want to have some kind of community that validates us. And then after the age of 30, that's when we really start seeing people move into that connected energy predominant phase. And it changes again when you're in your mid 40s. It goes back to being collective. And now you're the matriarch of a family, you're part of a community. And then once you get into your 50s and 60s, you go right back to being creative again.
I love that breakdown. My God. So what else? I interrupted you. Sorry, but you had said a couple of things of what identifies of a easy victim or an easy target, if you will.
And it's not easy. I don't want to give that impression that somebody's an easy target, but
susceptible.
More susceptible is the perfect phrase for it, right? Because what you're looking for are people who show indicators that they are susceptible to the kind of hormonal drops and the kind of persuasive appeals, emotional appeals, that can lead to physical seduction. So whether you're talking about ravens, sparrows, or swallows, in all three of those operations, what are also known as honey traps. Honey traps is the more CIA Western intelligence version of what the Russians and the KGB calls sexual exploitation operations. Honey traps are basically the idea that you attract more bees with honey. So you're just trying to appear attractive and appealing. Attractive and appealing is so much more than just physical attraction and appeal. Sometimes it's being able to listen to someone when they talk. Sometimes it's being able to remember the things that they say to you, right? I mentioned Maria Butina. There's another fantastic example from recent history, a woman named Fang Fang, or Christine Fang. She was actually notorious here in California, particularly in the Bay Area. She was an unregistered agent for Chinese, and she ended up having multiple intimate relationships with governors, mayors, senior politicians inside the state of California until she was ultimately arrested and prosecuted, right? In both cases, what these women, there were not beautiful women. They were normal, average, attractive women, right? Just completely normal, not supermodels. So it wasn't that they were instantly attractive to these men of significant power. They found a way to get in front of these men and demonstrate the proper emotional appeal to get the men to start talking about whatever their concerns and vulnerabilities were. My daughter's dating this guy I don't like. I'm worried about my senior president or my senior chief of staff on the team. I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to happen there. I can't find a good restaurant. Maybe even I can't find a good anniversary gift for my wife. What we're trained to do is put ourselves into a problem-solving scenario so we can solve the other person's problems, because what we're doing is now we're showing that other person subconsciously that they're valuable, that they're important, that they're interesting. Well, when someone makes you feel valuable, important, and interesting, you can't help but be attracted to that person. Noradrenaline, dopamine, and you start that whole 3-step process again. A positive hormonal drops to an emotional appeal that creates the opportunity for long-term influence. And that's the strategy. Unfortunately, our not something we...
God damn. Trump got a lot of them motherfuckers. He got the hormonal drop. Fuck. Damn, they been doing this shit for a long time, bro. Gaslighting the shit out of everybody.
Trust. We think we can trust our brain. It's one of those lies that you shouldn't believe. Your brain is actually inherently lazy. All brains are inherently lazy. The brain is wired biologically to conserve resources. So if you ever wondered why it is that we have like biases and why we make assumptions, we do it because it's really easy for the brain to process information when it just uses an assumption. You can just assume, oh yeah, it came from that restaurant, it's going to be good. That person is wearing a Taylor Swift shirt, I'm sure we're going to get along. The brain loves to make assumptions because assumptions are low calories, very fast, and the brain can conserve resources. It can conserve processing power for something more difficult, which the brain perceives as something more dangerous in the future. So the brain wants to conserve energy. Well, conserving energy means that anything that's convenient, the brain will just suck up. Give me more of that, right? That's why Netflix doesn't make you press play for the next episode to start.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because you can just sit there and do nothing, and your brain is like, I love doing nothing, and the next episode's just going to start. Just boom, automatically replays, right? It's the way that we love. It's why notifications are our favorite thing in the world. We don't have to check the apps. The notifications tell us that we just got a new message on whatever, right? It's one of the things that feeds the brain because it's very convenient. When somebody, to use your words, makes themselves dependent on somebody else, they're not actually dependent. But the external person becomes very convenient. Oh, you're a convenient source for a good restaurant recommendation. You're a convenient source to give me tips on new shows. You're a convenient source to get new book ideas. I have a guy that I graduated from the Air Force Academy with. He recently retired, Kenny Horton, Colonel Kenneth Horton, fantastic guy, brilliant at the academy, brilliant military career. We went to his retirement party. My wife is a huge sci-fi fan. She has been through every significant sci-fi series 2 or 3 times at least. Well, we go to Kenny's house. She didn't know Kenny. I knew Kenny from 20 years ago, but she didn't know Kenny. We go into Kenny's office, as is this part of the tour, and sitting on his shelf are these sci-fi series that she's never heard of before. So I call Kenny down. I'm like, Kenny, what are these books? Are these, interesting sci-fi series? So he explains to my wife, this one's about this one's about this one's my favorite. I would recommend you start this one. So now Kenny has become a trusted source of anything sci-fi. All he did was recommend one book series that she liked. He could have just as easily recommended a book series that she didn't like. But because he recommended one that she did like, he is now a trusted source for her for all things sci-fi.
So he has built credibility in her mind that this is a good person to go to for this. Convenience.
Right? Mm-hmm. So her brain now doesn't have to spend calories researching online to find a good sci-fi recommendation. She doesn't have to go to the library. She doesn't have to ask strangers. She doesn't have to search forums. It's super convenient for her brain to be like, well, just call Kenny. We would say that she's become dependent on Kenny. Really what it is Kenny's a convenient source of a solution that saves her brain calories. Oftentimes, frankly, that's what happens with romantic partners. Romantic partners are just a convenience. They're not a critical partner, right? They're just a pretty face, a nice body. Many years, that's all a partner really is. And then what's frustrating to us is when we turn a partner into a spouse, that convenience goes out the door. Because now there's all this additional responsibility. Now you've got to worry about their feelings. Now you got to worry about their needs. Now you got to worry about their diet. Now you got to worry about their family, right?
As the petite and curvy woman, I have
not necessarily. Not healthy dynamic of, responsibility and accountability and things like that, and balance. Like, I know in my other relationships, I really wanted somebody more so to spoil me. Not necessarily my children or have to take care of my children or anything like that. It was more so to to help me have some free time, help me, take me out. Something, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't necessarily to have them take on the responsibility of the children, but they are a part of me. Say if, something was to happen, it would be great to have a spouse to be able to step in and be a support in the area where I may need some, emotional support or, possibly financial support. Most of mine is like physical support. But right now, how I feel about it, shit, totally different. I'm like, shit, I don't know if I want somebody around me. Hell, at this point.
This applies to
their needs. Now you got to worry about their diet. Now you got to worry about their family, right?
I've never considered that.
Diets, definitely.
How much of this applies to someone trying to gain power over somebody and dominance? Is seduction and dominance and power all part of one dance, or are they actually separate?
So all of sex is power. All of sex is power. That's how we're taught to view it, right? Sex can be other things too, but all of sex is power. When you start having actual sexual intercourse, sexual relationships, you start to dip into two new hormones. So we've covered noradrenaline and we've covered dopamine. Feel-good chemicals that happen anytime you're around somebody you're attracted to. Once you actually engage in sex and you actually have orgasmic release, two additional chemicals are dropped: oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin is essentially the chemical that makes you feel connected to someone. Vasopressin is the chemical that makes you feel like you belong to that relationship, right? So a connection versus a belonging. You have found your match. You have found your partner. That satisfaction of being part of something, right? That's a vasopressin connection. So the more you have sex, the more oxytocin and vasopressin are released, which is oftentimes what leads to people having that sexual addiction. They're constantly chasing those two new hormones because it makes them feel validated in their life. It makes them feel like they're seen, like they're heard, like they're present, especially if they're not anything significant at work, right? When they're struggling artists, when they're, when they work 9-to-5 jobs or unskilled labor, that is a fantastic way for them to find a solution to feeling ignored, right? Once those two hormones are present, this is why sex is power, because now you are sharing an emotional, like a hormonal connection that makes you feel like you belong to another person. When you trust that person, that belonging is welcome. When you're uncertain about whether or not you can trust that person, that belonging is terrifying. And that's why many men and women alike have been in sexual relationships with somebody, and the only way they know to kind of keep that person around is to continue having sex. Because they don't know that they can trust that person, but they feel like they belong to that person. They don't know if they feel like that person belongs to them. And that's the sexual dynamic that we're oftentimes trying to deal with, right? And it's a tricky one. And that's a big part of the reason why when you have any kind of honey trap operation or sexual exploitation operation, Western agencies make sure that we know how to identify the difference between seduction and sexual exploitation. Because seduction can get you 99% of what you need without ever complicating it with those additional hormones.
How does that actually then play out? Have you ever done a honey trap?
I've never done a honey trap with me as the target.
Yeah. I was
called in for a case once with a homosexual target, right? I call him a homosexual target. You might have a different phrase. He was a male target who was attracted to transsexual men and post-op. So breasts, they look like females, but they also still had their manhood intact.
Got it. That's what he was
That's what he was into,
okay.
Right? So I was supposed to target this individual and work with this individual. It became very clear to me that this individual leaned masculine, liked men, and was showing signs of liking me in a romantic way. I didn't want to go down that road. I knew how to validate his desires, how to validate his needs and his concerns, but I knew that I was never going to be the person to satisfy those physical needs because it wasn't strategically viable, and I also didn't personally want to do it.
How did you validate? Do you mind me asking?
Validating people who have any kind of sexual preferences is really just a matter of letting them talk about it, and then letting them know they're not sick, they're not strange, they're not weird, that it's just what they like. It's like validating somebody who is a vegan or validating somebody who doesn't like dogs.
That's what I was going to say. The validation piece in general feels like a strong technique.
But there's so much shame that comes along with what people feel vulnerable about.
So validating something they're even vulnerable about is even more powerful.
Bingo. Because now you're getting into a different layer of their psyche. Because they're expressing something that's sensitive. You're validating and enforcing, empowering the thing that they feel vulnerable about, which makes them feel like they can trust you even more.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if I was in a vulnerable situation and you came to me and you were like, no, Lisa, I feel you, I totally understand, automatically I will feel seen.
Yep, and you'll feel safe. And then the next time that you're in a vulnerable situation, I might come to mind. That's influence, right? When I'm physically gone, but my thought still remains, that's influence. When I'm physically there with you, talking to you, that's persuasion. When I'm making you feel good in person, persuasion. When I'm gone, but I
Influence
still
and
make you,
persuasion.
you still remember me, that's influence, right? So I'm with this target, I've got to develop this target. I know that he is sexually driven. I know he's in a connected energy phase. I know that he has access to what we need, information to. So what I did have the authority to do, what I did have the power to do, was to facilitate his ability to find a partner in a very niche place, right?
Like what, you took him to a gay club?
Essentially, I started identifying, researching, finding, paying for, taking him on various tours to various countries that had what Thailand calls katoys, what some places call ladyboys, right? In Southeast Asia, it's very common. It's much more common to find people who are male, post-op to female, very, very feminine looking, but still intact as males. And that's what we did. We took him on multiple tours throughout Southeast Asia until he found a partner.
But what are you saying to him? Like, why are you taking him to these countries?
Because I know that he's looking for love.
Like, as a friend?
Yeah, he's looking for love. I've always wanted to see these places. Who wouldn't want to go see the beaches of Phuket? Who wouldn't want to go to Koh Phi Phi? Who wouldn't want to go to, see the ancient ruins in Cambodia? So let's go. He paid his own way to get there, but once we were actually there, I was like, hey, I found a bar that I think you might really enjoy. And for me, it's easy enough to be like, hey, I'm happy to look at all these pretty faces and all these, pretty breasts. I've got no problem. I'm just going to keep my head above waist level. Right?
Oh, so you were like, basically, I'm your friend, I'm traveling. Oh,
I know your secrets.
Oh, so
I know your secrets. I know that you can't tell them to anybody at work. You can't tell them to anybody in your family. I understand your situation. When I go to him and I tell him, hey, I was planning to go to Cambodia in October. I was going to spend 7 days there. I got comped a room by the Mandarin Oriental. If you want to come with me, you just have to pay your own ticket. And when we go, I'm almost certain that there's 2 fantastic, trans bars that I want to check.
Coincidence.
Well, I already researched them, yeah.
But you don't tell him that you've
Correct,
researched them, right?
correct. For him, I'm like, I know that and this is a country that's friendly to what you like to do, right? His home country wasn't friendly. So do you want to come with me? And he's convenient answer with somebody that you trust. So of course he's going to be like, yeah, let's do it. And I already know that as soon as I mention that there's bars that I've already identified that are of his sexual preference, I know adrenaline, I know there's dopamine, and then I know that I can make a persuasive appeal that is going to lend to a logical bit of influence that's going to make him say, absolutely, I have to go. How could I not go? Andy's already done the research. Andy already knows where to go. Andy's already going. That means even if I do get drunk and use drugs and hang out with these prostitutes, which is something he would do, Andy will keep me safe. Right? Andy knows my secret. Andy keeps me safe. He'll hold my bucket if I throw up.
Embarrassing story, but I can't pay my rent. My friend told me about how she got this $5,000.
He'll get me extra water and an IV if I need it, kind of thing.
Whew.
Just a big convenience.
Yeah. So is there any difference between the tactics that a man will use towards a woman for seduction versus a woman's tactics that she will use towards a man?
Yes. Generally speaking, again, broad strokes, men engage in sexual activity because of a physical drive. Women engage in sexual activity because of an emotional drive, right? Generally speaking. So what that means is sex is very physically draining for men. Sex is very emotionally draining for women, right? So when ravens, who are male intelligence officers trying to develop a target, when ravens go after female targets, they already know it will likely take more time to build the emotional connection to be able to generate the type of persuasive appeal to lead to logical influence. They just know it. So they know there's going to be more time on target, more effort, more dates, more patience, more cerebral engagement. Because until you unlock a woman's emotional connection, it's very difficult to get her compromised physically. Swallows have the opposite problems. Swallows know that if they wanted to, they could walk up to somebody and be like, let's have sex. And for the most part, the senators and congressmen are going to be like, sure, just don't tell my wife, right? So swallows have a different problem because having sex does not mean they're going to be giving secrets. So they have to find a way to use sex as the lure to get to the place where the male becomes emotionally interested and shares the secrets. Because the sex is not the goal. Blackmail is never the goal. That's what movies make you think. Having sex with somebody just to get blackmail is silly. You have sex with somebody to get secrets, and then you use blackmail to keep the sex happening. Now, movies don't get that right. You do not have a swallow or a honey trap that has sex with a target and then says, I'm going to tell your wife unless you give me these secrets. It's not how it works. The swallow has sex with the man, and then the man says secrets during their connection phase, right? And then the man's like, I can't have sex with you anymore. And then the swallow says, I'm really connected to you. I really love you and trust you. If you don't keep having sex with me, I'm going to tell your wife and your boss that you told me about these secrets. And then the man's like, oh, well, if you're going to force me to keep having sex with you and keep it quiet, I guess I can't argue with that. That's the real power of a sexual exploitation operation.
But then for the other way, for the raven, you have to get them emotionally bought in first to have the sex.
Correct.
And it's the combination of the two that then allows them to reveal the secrets?
So women will actually reveal secrets faster than men.
Really?
Ravens will actually get access to secrets before sex is an option. Because what's going to happen is through those emotional persuasions, the woman will feel like she can trust the person. Before a woman will trust her body to a man, she will often trust information to the man. Whereas men will often trust their body to a woman before they trust information to a woman.
Wow, that's so no idea. And what's so fascinating, I heard a study, maybe you've heard of it or you can correct me, but I heard a study that it was something like they did with this, they looked at like torture and trying to get secrets out of people. The guys give the secrets up way quicker. The woman will go to her death.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised by what you just said, because part of me is like, okay, yeah, you can torture a woman. A woman ain't giving up her secrets. It's like, nope, I got my friends back. I got my husband's back. I got my kids back, whatever. But the revealing it from the emotional, that they're easier to do, that's...
You're two different hormones.
Yeah, like help me think through this.
Yeah. You're seeing the power of hormones. When someone's being tortured, the hormone that's being released is cortisol. Mm-hmm. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Women have an incredible tolerance for cortisol. That's why you have babies. That's why you've seen women who can just take an incredible amount of stress that would otherwise make a man crack, right? Women have an incredible tolerance for cortisol. Men have a very low tolerance. Again, generally, have a very low tolerance for cortisol. So when...
Damn. Dark Night of the Soul must be a killer. Damn. Yeah, be careful how you treat women. And women, be careful how you treat men, because that rebirth is a boy. Let me tell you, if you really masculine, you understood. Yeah, teach one, do better, and teach your children to do better as well.
Torture has presented itself. Both people, both men and women in general, will absorb high cortisol levels. But then as it continues to be ramped up over time, men will crack and they will find a way to end the stress, right? They will believe that they can save themselves the stress, where women's tolerance is just higher. And because women have a sense of clarity as their cortisol levels go up.
That makes sense.
Cortisol levels go up.
Oh, really?
They know that because women have a sense of clarity as their cortisol levels go up.
Oh, really?
They know that breaking is not actually going to stop the stress, where men end up having foggier heads, less cognitive capability as their cortisol levels go up. So
that makes sense, as in to the reason why more feminine energies can take so much pressure or stress. Extreme emotions while going through tumultuous situations and still be able. So, in an intellectual understanding of the cortisol, that would make sense as to if women ran as president, ran the countries, there'd be a lot of women just minding their business as divorce, as to oppose men, our lower side of feminine energy, whether it be toxic masculinity that is actually toxic feminine energy. And opposed to them in a positive space. I could understand those dualities from that perspective as well, as to the dynamic and what everyone's purpose was. Men are physically stronger than women, but not on an emotional level.
What ends up happening for men is that men will end up believing that they can somehow get out of the pain. Like, oh, if I tell you what you want, you're going to stop hurting me. Where women are like, even if I tell you what you want, you're still going to kill me. So I'm not going to tell you, right? So that's a completely different hormone than dopamine and oxytocin. Here's what's also fascinating. Sex will build new neural connections and new brain matter. So sex is actually empirically good for the
It's why the weekend song with Doja Cat, a couple of strokes, and then you'll belong to me some type of way. It's like building new neural paths and what he's talking about right now. Jesus. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Here's what's also fascinating. Sex will build new neural connections and new brain matter. So sex is actually empirically good for the brain.
New neural links. Within the brain pathway. That makes sense. A telepathic connection. I can't stand this shit right now. Y'all.
But it builds it in different ways for men and women. When women have sex, it is their logical brain that grows. More pink matter, more white matter, more logical processing power. So a woman's logical left brain, their language capabilities, their reasoning, their memory increases with sex. When men have sex, it is actually their right brain, their creative brain, that increases their emotional empathy, their ability to connect, their ability to increase their EQ happens with sex. So with men and women, like my wife and I, you and Tom, you've been having sex for years. You have been boosting his creative brain. He has been boosting your logical brain. When I look back on my relationship with my wife, that is 100% true. When we first met, I was not a very creative person. She was not a very rational person. After however many years of sex, she is now actually, you can see the mental development.
Wow. I didn't know that either. So what's happening then? Let's say you've got the raven and the swallow. Is it?
I just need to screenshot this really quick.
I love that you broke down the difference of how they approach each other, but how? What's the results? Are they typically the same?
No. So, frankly speaking, ravens end up having operations that run longer. Swallows end up having more frequent operations. And that's because they...
Which actually makes sense because ravens mate for life. And like they said, the swallows, they... I'm thinking about Austin Powers. Something swallows is, and then that makes sense to Austin Powers. Because that is a spy movie, Undercover, where, yeah, they use sex as a weapon, ultimately.
Usually they target different types of intel targets, too. So, for example, there's a really famous example from World War II, where the UK created a group of ravens that were specifically intended to penetrate into East German or Nazi bureaucrats. The ravens were chosen not because the bureaucrats were females, but because the administrators for the bureaucrats were females.
Oh, yeah.
So now, instead of getting access to the people who were the decision makers, the Raven's job was to get access to the people who processed all the notes and sent all the reports and wrote all the cables. So they were getting tons and tons of secrets from this handful of female administrators. So that operation lasted for decades. That division lasted for decades because they found that they could exploit the longing, the connection, the needs, the vulnerabilities of these female administrators who were systematically marginalized, systematically oppressed, even sexually abused by their partners, right? And be an outlet, a trusted outlet of a romantic nature. So those operations lasted for a long time. Meanwhile, if you compare that to your swallow operations may only last 2, 3, 5 years. It's really just until the swallow finds a higher value target because, again, with men in general, especially Western men, like the woman controls the pace of the sexual relationship. So whenever the woman decides to change partners, men really don't have much of a say. So that's how you see Maria Butina and Christine Fang. That's how you see them have multiple relationships with multiple people of high political office, whether they're senators or state senators or mayors or governors. You can see them jumping from person to person on their own account, climbing that political ladder, which is exactly how I was able to build a case against those people. And people don't realize this is not something from like World War II. This is absolutely real world happening right now. Somewhere there is a senator, a congressman, an intel officer, a general having sex with a sparrow, giving them secrets because the Russians know it works. They know it works, right? Somewhere there is a Russian raven who is sitting with a homosexual member of Congress or a homosexual member of the technical elite who...
I seen 1010 earlier. Now I'm seeing 1111.
is collecting secrets because they know it works, right? Human sexuality is so predictable and so powerful. It's just a 3-step process. Hormones, persuasion, and influence. That's all it takes. It's as difficult as it is for us to find and fall in love. It is not so difficult for us to find and fall into some sort of relationship where we're having sex and exchanging information.
This will give you goosebumps. I will draw the person.
Oh, look at her doggy dog.
Search online to
cute.
see like what kind of like if there are any famous seductions that are just like out of the norm. And there was one that I found. It was called, I don't know if you've heard of them. They were back in the Czechoslovakia days of intelligence. Karl and Hannah Kocher, and they were actually CIA swinger spies.
Right. This is a fantastic case, right? So it takes us back, like you said, to about 1970 something, and they were technically Czechoslovakian spies. Right? Male, female, Czechoslovakian spies fabricated a marriage, came to the United States. Immigration was loose then, so they were both able to get American citizenship after working and living in the United States for a series of years. Well, then the male, Karl, actually applied for a job at CIA as a linguist, speaking Czech.
I just want y'all to really pay attention to this part. Really pay attention to it. And these people are Caucasian. In the CIA as a interpreter for free.
And was hired. So he went on to then have a multi-decade career at CIA, climbing the ranks, becoming more and more successful as an American citizen, naturalized from Czechoslovakia, as a linguist, and then ultimately as an analyst, and all the time feeding secrets back to Czechoslovakia. Meanwhile, his wife became a well-known to-do in the technical world and the professional world, doing the same thing, stealing economic and industrial secrets, sending it back to Czechoslovakia. But what makes them the most interesting is that in their process of climbing the ranks, they were also specifically engaged in swinger activity, wife swapping, husband swapping, couple swapping. For people who don't know what swinging is, it's when you engage in consensual sex with another couple. They were supposed to come in and engage in that type of activity because Czechoslovakian intelligence knew that those would be the most compromised intelligence officials. And it turns out that they were right. Multiple CIA relationships, multiple CIA officers, multiple elites in Washington, D.C., elites in financial circles, technological business circles, were all engaging in these orgies and these swinger parties and these swapping parties in Washington, D.C. And it was so expansive that this couple became like one of the go-to primary couples leading, like present in all of these parties. So they gained everybody's trust. They swapped with everybody. So like it's easy to trust the guy whose wife you were just banging at a party, right? Like, and all of a sudden they had just incredible access, not for a few years, for decades, right? Until they also were discovered and they ended up going back to Europe and being celebrated as heroes. What's really kind of bittersweet though, by the time they went back to Europe, Czechoslovakia had essentially broken into the Czech Republic and Slovakia.
God. Yeah.
So they had no home to go back to.
Oh God.
Because they were spies who were successful of a country that had just been shattered. So they were kind of rejected by both sides because both sides were trying to build better relationships with the United States.
It's so crazy to think, because as you were talking this whole, time about the tactics and what everybody uses, like hopefully people watching now are going to know the steps in seduction, so that if they don't want to be seduced and someone's trying to, they start to notice. But then there's those things that are kind of complete right to the right or to the left that you don't expect, like the fact that you think that they're married, so you perceive them to be even more safe than single, and now they're using that as a manipulation to be in swingers, and now the amount of couples they must have, like.
It's true. The real lesson here for any woman listening, any man listening, the real lesson here is to understand two things. One, you can't trust your brain. You can't trust your brain. Your brain is always looking for a way to reach the shortest conclusion with the least amount of processing. It's the opposite of what you want. What you want is to reach a slow decision with the most amount of processing. Like, logically, that's what you want. But when you feel those butterflies in your stomach and you're like, this guy's really into me, that's actually your brain shortcutting the process. You don't want that, but you don't know that you don't want that. So you have to remember not to trust your brain. And then to remember the 3 steps, that your body will physiologically drop hormones that make you feel good before somebody actually has a chance to emotionally persuade you. And then when they emotionally persuade you, if you can identify the fact that you're being emotionally leveraged, that's when you know that the next logical thing that they're trying to do is build influence. If with the right person, it feels like falling in love. With the wrong person, it feels like falling in love, right? Because it is a predictable, manageable, repeatable process. That's how I was trained to use it. That's how other people are trained to use it. So if it's something that you really do want to protect against, the thing to do is to identify when you feel good and raise a red flag in your own brain and say, I feel really good. This person's really connecting with me. Let's slow this down right now. Let's take a pause. Let me ask some hard questions. Let me try to exert some of my control and see whether or not this thing still works. Let me ask some questions. Let me dictate some dates. Let me make some choices and see how they respond, right? Because it'll prove itself out in the long run if it's genuine.
Ooh. Andrew, Bustamante dropping bombs. Dude, thank you so much. If you want to learn the sneaky mind games that narcissists will do to trap you, then click here right now.
Bustamante, I think it's Bustamante is his name. Andrew Dash Boost, but and her name is at Lisa Bullet. I'm not gonna butcher it. It's BILYU. So y'all go check her video out. I'm actually subscribed to her. She
If you're a woman,
minding her business, continue to do so. Oh, I'm not subscribed to her. How am I not subscribed? Oh, okay. I am subscribed to her. That's why she came up in my feed, but I watched plenty of her videos too. I like her channel. So that is it for now, y'all. We're going to reconnect possibly tomorrow. I'm not making no promises. It might be every other day. It might be day. But I will always try my best. I love you guys. Never give up. Give yourself and teach somebody else words of affirmation. Say you are the best thing that ever happened to this universe. And put the action forth to be so, because it's not impossible. Love you guys. Be great. I will talk to y'all later.